Elegant, beautiful, dummy, thick. Just a few words that can be used to describe my alluring presence. Why are you laughing? That was not a joke. I know this might come off as a shock to many of you, but I have not always been this delicious dollop of hummus, this hunk of prosciutto. For a time, I too used to be average. I know. Here is a rough timeline of my descent and then subsequent escape from fugliness. Spring of '99. Canadian songstress Shania Twain was feeling like a woman. Sentient ramen noodle Justin Timberlake still thought that he was black. The world was graced with my presence as I was delivered rectally. I slid out donning a pair of sunglasses, twirling my umbilical cord in my tiny hand. My first words were, "Did somebody order a slut?" Two of the nurses that were present fainted. Even as a newborn, I was a tiny agent of chaos. As an infant, I was an absolute baddie. I had the face of a cherub, but slightly Asian-looking, apparently, for lack of better words. Please don't cancel me for saying that. Why am I begging? I know that none of you would dare to. This resulted in my family nicknaming me China. Not Chinese, but China. I come from an African household. The only PC my family is aware of is the software. I pranced my way through my first years of life looking as cute as a button until age 5 when I inevitably began my descent into the realm of the average. Right around the time that I was introduced to math. Coincidence? I think not. Oh, but Mother Nature was not done playing with the mangled voodoo doll that was my body. Summer of 2011. Puberty hits me like a truck. I begin menstruating for the first time. I immediately assumed the death had come for me in the form of internal bleeding. In the stalls of that middle school bathroom, I accept my fate. A little too quickly. From the ages of 12 to 20, I experienced a prolonged awkward phase where my body resembled a hefty bag filled with recently expired dairy products. Combine this with my inability to style my naturally frizzy hair, resulting in me looking like I had recently been electrocuted, and not in the fun way. Add to that a cluster of teeth that resembled a bunch of Tic Tacs trying to do the Millie Rock. You know things are bad when your dentist glances at your x-rays, lets out a deep sigh, and then has to sit down for a minute. The combination of these factors resulted in an external appearance that screamed to the outside world, "Do not mate with me. I have poor genetics and grooming habits that will doom our offspring." Being a beacon of suburban mediocrity, not being attractive during my adolescence has been the only real struggle that I've endured in my life. So far, you always have to give yourself room for your life to get worse. However, during 2020, as the rest of the world was descending into madness and disarray, I managed to undergo a mini glow-up of sorts. I am now the most moisturized and hot that I've ever been. I routinely get comments along the lines of, "You're like weirdly attractive." Jealous? Thus, I have experienced the full spectrum of attractiveness. Despite my looks being the bane of my existence for most of my adolescent and also adult years, looking back, my golly was I grateful for what I went through. You want to know why, inquisitive little viewer? Because I learned the harsh reality of what it's like to not have people like you simply because of your looks, and more importantly, to not rely on them. Beauty, as advantageous as it is temporary, especially if you are a woman. Because honey, living in our society, once your eggs start dying, it is a ticking clock before you are eventually kicked to the curb, where you will inevitably be stomped to the death by the pointy Jimmy Choos of your genetically gifted and even younger female peers. Valuing yourself exclusively by your looks turns you into a depreciating asset. Now, might this be a desperate attempt to convince myself that the body dysmorphia and complete lack of romantic attention that I endured during my prolonged awkward phase meant something in the grand scheme of things? Perhaps. Let's not dwell on this possibility for too long. You ever meet a person who's been a slice since day one? I mean, they shimmied out of the womb, slapped the nurse on the tuchus, and winked. It technically didn't constitute as a #MeToo moment because they were an infant and their actions could not be held against them in the court of law. This is the beauty of committing crimes as a child. Virtually no accountability. These type of people, no offense. Actually, why did I say that? I mean for this to be offensive. These type of people are the most mind-numbingly boring individuals to converse with. You know why? Because they've never had to be interesting. Ever since they were a wee lass, all of their peers have been bending over backwards to appease them in a desperate attempt of getting a taste of that sweet cherry pie. I'm running out of euphemisms for genitalia. You need to have a moment during your adolescence where you look around and you think, dang, I ain't. That's what builds character, what keeps you humble, what prevents you from thinking that you can have a pop music career. This is what life on easy mode gets you.
This summer, and now we welcome one. Guys, I'm the worst reader. They're only getting bigger. Take a look.
It is precisely for this reason that I am glad that I used to be so dusty that it was almost medically concerning. It forced me to form a personality. An abrasive one that most people can only handle in short increments of time, but a personality nonetheless. I'm like a shot of espresso, tiny, brown, with strong African roots, exhilarating, but will eventually force you to run to the nearest bathroom, clutching your cheeks. Don't worry, you'll be back for more. Being dusty forced me into only having two real choices: becoming interesting or becoming a good person. You already know which one I chose. Let's be frank, swimming in the waters of moral relativism is so much more refreshing. Plus, you can pee in it. How do you think people become funny? We realized that our looks alone weren't enough to entrance people, to turn them into our minions and force them to do our evil bidding. There is a reason that most comedians resemble gargoyles. They had no choice but to be amusing. It is for this reason that all people need to be ugly for at least a period of several months within their lives. It should be mandated by the state. This current trend of kids attempting to not have an awkward phase by looking like this on social media is going to yield disastrous results. The gradual adultification of today's youth is nasty and genuinely concerning. It's like you're not even allowed to be dusty anymore. The amount of times that I've seen a glow-up challenge post where a teenager will initially post a photo of them as a fetus and then a more recent image of them at a bar mitzvah with the caption, "Look how far I've come, winky face." Girl, you're still a baby. It's not a glow-up if you've barely went through puberty. You still sleep with a stuffed animal. Chip Skylark is still your ultimate crush. You can't hide the truth from me. Are the youths of the world not allowed to be ugly or awkward-looking anymore? Apparently not. This reminds me of the post that Sky Jackson, an actress, made back in 2016. Mind you, Sky was born in the palindrome year of 2002, which would have made her 14 at the time. 'Twas an innocent post. "Sky's the limit" was the caption. Ugh. What a jokester she is. But lo and behold, despite the fact that she was, again, there were a slew of comments that were criticizing her for not having a backside that was sufficiently thick enough. Which begs the question, why are you demanding that a child be dummy thick? Hello, Chris Hansen? Yes, hell is overflowing and I have just spotted a demon lurking on Facebook. What's that? Facebook is their natural habitat? I see. Ladies, finally, now the commodification of our bodies begins at an even younger age. How dare you have a physique that grown men do not find attractive? Don't you know that's not allowed? That it is an offense to exist without adhering to the ever-restricting male gaze? Your body doesn't belong to you, silly little woman. This is normal, apparently. This is normal. 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 People need to be crusty at this age. That's the whole point of being 12. It's to look and act weird. If you didn't smell faintly of beef and weren't leaving random skin flakes around wherever you went, then you weren't doing middle school correctly. This is why so many cringe compilations irritate me. You'll have 10 to 16-year-olds decked out in their weeb best, looking absolutely greasy, spouting opinions that they will look back on in horror, a completely normal thing for someone their age to do. And then people, usually much older than them, have the audacity to compile these videos and post them in compilations where all of their actions are labeled cringe, resulting in these younglings being mocked mercilessly by the entire world. Here's a newsflash. You're supposed to be cringy at that age. Heck, I'm cringy now. Nowadays, one must have a perfectly cultivated online personality by the time that they enter elementary school, lest they accidentally make a post where they, God forbid, act their age, and as punishment, the entire internet will begin flinging virtual tomatoes at them whilst screaming, "Cringe! Cringe! You must be punished for your sins." This is precisely why I go out of my way to lightly mock cute, non-cringy adolescents. I smack the ice cream cone right out of their tiny little hands, snatch toys away from them, just so that they can get a taste of how cruel reality can be. It's a practice that I encourage. Now, might you permanently be banned from the Build-A-Bear workshop in your local mall where you are slowly running out of establishments that you are legally permitted to enter? Yes, but the world will be a better place for it. Joke's on them. I stole multiple handfuls of fluff before being escorted out, and I will be blowing them into the vents. I love chaos and causing respiratory issues. If you are watching this and are currently still within your awkward phase, give it some time. Eventually emerge from this state a beautiful butterfly. Or maybe you won't. Perhaps you'll emerge from your cocoon an even fatter caterpillar. Sometimes it doesn't get better. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you said something in the woods and no one was there to hear it, was it even racist? Shout out to all of my patrons. You are all so smart, so delicious, so tangy, like barbecue wings. I don't know where I'm going with this description. If you would like to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description down below.